reduce down the Monkey Dory count to just 2 in this case, with 2 Darkness Energy. So it's trying to go more aggressive with the single prizes, which could still come up massively in this matchup, knowing that Dario is going to have these multi-prize Pokemon well in range. So we start to see some prize cards here coming into our final game of the day.
Well, both players will be wondering what's going to be prized, but they won't find out until their first deck check, as they are about to begin their round 8. Many things we'll get to talk about there, Joe, but for now, let's talk about the pressure for these players, as this match is the one which decides whether they carry on. Dario and Consta will be flipping over their active Pokemon and finding out who will be making day 2.
Talk about pressure. Had a great day so far. You've taken a couple dodgy situations, a couple ties for Consta, 1 loss and 1 tie so far for Dario, so not much room for error at any point here. It's going to be playing to your best and hoping that the draws go well. We've seen the fist bump, which means we're getting into that Swiss round number 8. Dario is kicking things off with a Hoot Toot, and also has a Nest Ball already available, and that's all you need to get going, Mike.
Yeah, that Nest Ball will be hopefully finding a Fan Rotom, maybe even looking to try and find a Terra Pokemon too. It depends on the rest of that hand, but a deck check will be happening for Dario now, as there are lots of important cards in this deck. One of the hardest decks to prize check for, because you have so many one-offs throughout.
One of those prize cards that I spotted, actually, was the Gravity Mountain Stadium card, which is a one-of within Dario's list. And that's one way that even a Flareon EX can reach into a Gardevoird EX by reducing the hit points by 30 into Stage 2 Pokemon. So that's definitely something that Dario has to take note of and come into his thinking of how he's ever going to deal with Gardevoird EX throughout this matchup.
And that prize check will be looking for the energy cards, of which there are 5 different types in this deck, something that is only really possible in these Crispin-based Noctowl engine decks, as it allows you to search for 2 different energy cards and put them onto your Pokemon. Well, 1 onto your Pokemon, 1 to the hand. But it's really the key part of this deck and how you can accelerate. But that Fan Rotom will be the target of the Nest Ball, an incredible card with a Fan Call, allowing to search for 3 colors Pokemon with 100 HP or less.
Yeah, the Flareon Evolutions toolbox is definitely a high maintenance deck, but from just 1 ball search, a Fan Call can really get you access to all sorts of things. Not only can it help you grab additional Hoot Toot and Noctowl for a following turn, but also, as we can already see, you can grab your colorless Eevee here as well. And with already, I believe, a Terrestrial EX in the hand for turn 2, that's setting Dario up very nicely to unlock his Jewel Seeker.
Yeah, normally that Fan Call, you're happy with the 3, it's got you more than enough. But this is one of those decks where you'd greedily like 4 or 5
Almost,
if you could. There's so many of those 100 HP colorless Pokemon you'd love to get out and put into play. But a solid start setting up for Dario, and Consta on the other side, staring down with that singular routes, and will be hoping to stabilize just as well. And this matchup is one that I know you mentioned before when talking about Flareon EX. Why is this such a significant matchup for the Flareon EX deck?
Well, it's one of the few matchups where you can't hit a crucial weakness, and weakness is one of the main ways that Flareon can take 1-hit KOs cleanly. So the fact that Gardevoird EX can stick around on the board, provided it's healed with its own Monkey Dory throughout the game, is one of the main downsides of the matchup. And of course, when Consta is also opting to have a couple of single prize attacking threats, they can also reach on these EX Pokemon very cleanly. So it does feel like the advantage right now might be slightly in favor of Consta, but also bear in mind that Dario, with the Wellspring Mask Ogerpon EX, might be tipping that scales again to make it a little bit more balanced.
And for those of you who tune in every year for the World Championship, you might recognize Consta top 16 in the previous 2 Worlds. That is an amazing achievement, especially in the era we're in now. There's so many players making it to these events. Another player notable for having a sibling that is also very good. It's something that we see quite a lot in our TCG. You know, Consta and Yuho both having amazing success throughout the last few years, and definitely helps when it comes to testing and improving the player.
Having a testing partner in your own home is definitely a handy thing. It means you can just throw some poke whenever you feel like it. We are having this opening deck search for Consta here. These players will be familiar with each other, not sure how familiar they are of each other's lists just yet. That would be one thing to bear in mind, because getting down multiple rolls is going to be really important. Consta may be thinking about Wellspring Ogerpon. He may also be thinking about the threat of a Sylveon EX. There's so much in range of a Flareon toolbox that you have to really prepare for a number of different game plans that your opponent can employ against you. So trying to navigate your board with how you search these Pokemon with this opening Nest Ball is going to be vital.
Well, as we find those prize cards, just noting them down in the notebook, great way to keep check of what you've got, and especially in these high-pressure moments, it's easy to forget halfway through. You take a few prize cards, you're thinking, hang on a minute, what's in my discard, what's in my hand, what's in play, and you can't really prize check later on, so able to just keep that memory out of your mind and allow you to keep referring back to it as another Ralts will be making the field. And it's key in these matchups, especially knowing what we know of that Wellspring Ogerpon. You do have to make sure you keep plenty of options available, just in case your opponent's able to dismantle your board in 1 turn.
Yeah, Consta may be thinking that just getting second Ralts down puts him in a fairly good stead. We'll see the rest of the hand, whether or not there's any supporters to come alongside this. Obviously, something like TM Evolution is a great sort of turn-ending action that you look for, and it looks to be an Iono here being thrown down, so we can see an additional 6 cards, and also, crucially, putting one of those Noctowl that Dario searched on his first turn to the bottom of the deck. There's no guarantee now that there's going to be Jewel Seeker action on turn number 2, so it's a great pickup, and actually a great 6 cards here from the Iono. We see the Psychic Energy and TM Evolution, even an Ultra Ball in the hand as well, so looks like a great grip here from Consta. Well, that'll be the Evolution straight away here to end the turn.
Well, with it being the active Ralts, will just be the bench one, as you can only evolve your bench Pokemon with TM Evolution. But having that singular Curlier in play will set up Consta for next turn. But there is a world where Dario could win this turn, as we know that Wellspring Ogerpon is in the deck, and that's going to be the Nest Ball to find it. You can see the anticipation for the turn, just planning it fully out.
Like there's Terra Orb in hand. That can get our Terrestrial EX Pokemon. There's an Ultra Ball already. There's Nest Ball for the Wellspring Ogerpon as well. There's so many options here. Dario just has to map it out, because with 3 Hoot in play, we could see Jewel Seeker into Jewel Seeker into Jewel Seeker. And that could certainly be a way we can find access to a switching option, a Crispin, as well as a Sparkling Crystal. That's what we need to access here for a Torrential Pump turn 2 victory.
You guys at home, I'm sure you're thinking, hang on a minute, that's not meant to be in this deck, but that's where Dario has stood out in this tournament. That singular card has been opted to be played, and it's moments like this where it could come in clutch. There is that Stellar Crystal to be able to reduce the attack cost. You also have the Crispin, so it just has to find a way to do all of that in this turn. But there was one prize card that could be notable in this moment, is that Professor Turo's scenario.
Air balloon that we can search still, Mike. So
that would be able to chain the Noctowl. I don't know, there's something there that could be missing. It's just got to work it out now. Dario trying to solve it all.
I think Ultra Ball, Noctowl, and then one Noctowl can dual seek for another Noctowl, and then you're getting one extra item for the price, and straight away we're searching out the Wellspring Ogerpon. We've seen nodding, we've seen a bit of gesturing here. Whether or not we can piece it all together, it is definitely a few dual seekers to get there. Getting rid of one Hoot Toot here from, this is the Ultra Ball now. Also going to get rid of a Nest Ball. Is it possible for Dario to make it happen? We know we have access to a lot of the deck here. Wow. See already the Air Balloon. Just sort of eyes darting. Yeah, a second Ultra Ball. We haven't actually, we need to Ultra Ball for a Noctowl here, because we've grabbed the items. Yeah.
So just checking.
Ultra Balls for the Wellspring, and he's jumping a step forward here, but we will be accessing these item cards.
You can tell with these moments how easy it is to skip ahead, because you have to chain so many pieces together, and that is why this Dual Seeker is so powerful. Able to get 2 trainers with 1 Pokemon ability there, and you can see the Ultra Ball plus the Air Balloon, just making sure to go through it correctly, and that will allow the free retreat. Now another Ultra Ball, but this is where the amount of cards in hand starts to be a question. Have you got it? And that's going to be the Dual Seeker number 2.
Crispin Sparkling Crystal, Mike. It's all there, nothing in the prize cards. We know that that actually spells the doom for Consta. All he has to see is that there are 2 energy remaining in the deck, so that Crispin can get the extra attachment. And there it is, a turn 2 victory for Dario. The fist bump comes down. What a way to win your first game in round number 8 to book your spot in phase 2 of the competition.
Wow, what an amazing performance there. And that's where those unknown tech cards can come in clutch. This EV attacking box with Flareon as the main attacker has the advantage. You can sprinkle in so many Terra attackers. With that Stellar Crystal and the Noctowl engine, you can piece them together just like that, as we saw on the screen there. 2 Noctowl was needed. There was a 3rd one available if you're able to get a hold of it. And there were even cards prized that would have helped make it easier. Well, Turo wouldn't have worked because you'd have needed a Crispin. But you can see how much these kind of chaining of attacks can be possible when you've got the Noctowls available. And I think Consta on this occasion will be thinking, hang on a minute, now I've got a plan for that next time. I've got to bench a little bit more of my Pokemon options I have available.
There's a couple of questions going through his head right now. First of all, does he still opt to go second? Oftentimes Gardevoird chooses to go second, but then you're facing a Noctowl engine, and they love going first, of course, because then they have access to the Dual Seeker straight away. I think Consta points to himself there, so perhaps he is now changing up the strategy straight away. The other thing, of course, Mike, that you can do is try and have the likes of Monkey Dory in the active position, because Torrential Pump only deals 100 to the active. That can force only a single prize knockout, even from a Torrential Pump. Also trying to weave in your own Bravery Charm, perhaps, on some of your Pokemon, could also skew the situation more in your favor. What a fantastic start here for Dario. Got to be feeling good about that one. In a tough matchup where you've also prized the Gravity Mountain, being able to just take that win immediately is phenomenal.
Yeah, both these players currently at a record which would allow them to go through to day 2. It's more about getting as far ahead as possible.
Right.
5-1-1 is the record needed to make day 2. But at this stage, you want to be getting as close to top cut as possible. No one comes to the World Championship to make top 32 or top 16. They want to be winning it. And so to try and get as high a record as possible, so you can get as far ahead as possible tomorrow, especially with such few players on high records at this event, only 1 player currently on 7-0. It's really every win matters at this stage.
Let's get into this game number 2 then. The good news is for Consta is that there's plenty of time remaining to change your fortunes. Leads out with a Lily's Clefairy EX. It does kick off with an Earthen Vessel. It's going to be discarding 1 Jellicent EX. It's going to be the first search of the game, but of course getting access to early energy drops, not only fantastic for getting them in the discard pile to pitch early, setting up your Gardevoird EX, but in this case, when you've led the Lily's Clefairy EX, why not start attaching to that Pokemon anyway? You know you're up against a deck that utilizes Area 0 Underdepths. That means this actually can be a good attacking presence, Mike.
Yeah, interesting start. You don't always want to start a 2-prize as Gardevoird. And also looking to start by going first, as you mentioned, that would be a potential adaptation here for Consta as he goes into that first deck search for energy, but really want to be getting the Gardevoird going as soon as possible, because as we all know, Gardevoird is one of the most powerful decks we've had in the Scarlet and Violet era, and it is due to that on-board presence of everything you need to continually attack turn after turn. No cards from hand needed a lot of the time. And so if you can get the Gardevoird in play, this matchup heavily swings in favor of Consta.
A couple of awkward prize cards there. A couple of research, which is never great to see, but also some of your one-off Pokemon. The 1 Frillish, in addition to the 1 Mew EX. Sometimes Mew EX copying a Flareon EX is a really efficient way to take a response KO, copying that Carnelian. Even though it's a 2-for-2 trade, sometimes it means that you can do it with very few Psych Energy discarded, which can be appealing. So he's going to take a few notes here, jotting down those cards that he doesn't have access to. And you have a couple of those Professor's Research Prize. There's 3 copies within Consta's list. That is a little bit awkward. Got to see if he's got a hand on any for any future turns to see if he can get into this game.
The Terrapagos EX on the other side, and another interesting starter being 230 HP, making it quite tanky when it comes to something like Lily's Clefairy attacking into it. Now, what makes Gardevoird so dangerous when it comes to these attacks and leaving things on board where they've got HP remaining is that Monkey Dory can always finish them off. And I think that's something that Consta has to think about, is how to navigate the matchup where you can stay ahead, disrupt, and use the Iono, which is so powerful against the Noctowl engine.
Yeah, it's actually beneficial oftentimes to keep damage around on the board, to play around Festivity EX and just deny your opponent from draw power. I really like the attachment to the active Lily's Clefairy. It makes Dario think twice about how he wants to commit to his bench Pokemon. Typically, the Flareon loves to just go as wide as possible with that fan call and grabbing all sorts, as we see some prize cards for Dario now.
Wow.
Also prizing his copy of Mew EX, and many of those pieces, there is 1 EV EX in the list and 2 different regular EV. So the boosted evolution currently in the prize card, so that only has access to 1 EV right now, Mike.
Yeah, that's going to be tough, and the ability to evolve in this matchup is key. but then also that Wellspring Ogerpon is now an option to think about. But going second, everything changes. The flow of the game is now completely different, as previously Dario could attack on his first attacking turn. Now has to wait a few turns, which gives Consta the space to start going.
Yeah, the only real attack you could launch here would be an assault landing, maybe a corner, something like that in the best case scenario. And that's not great when you're staring down a Lily's Clefairy EX, because that can easily just full moon Rondo into you, and the 70 damage isn't really that relevant, so it doesn't look like Dario's going to prioritize much of an attack here. Instead, he just has to try and still develop a good-sized board, but also be aware of that full moon Rondo damage to not allow your Terrapagos to get too damaged.
Well, the deck check just being completed here, also important at this event. I think that's one of the things that stands out with the top players compared to the rest is how diligent they are with their deck checks and the ability to play differently based off of those prize cards. And we mentioned the EVX and one of the EVs in the prizes. That is going to completely change the lines Dario has to go for here, as that Fan Rotom Fan Call we mentioned before has been completed. And there we see the singular EV, a Hoot Hoot, and a Noctowl.
The good news is this doesn't look suspicious, to be honest with you. This looks like quite a traditional Fan Call, to be fair. So there's no warning signs being sort of triggered right now for Consta. It's a fairly routine turn, to be fair. If Dario does want to stay safe, he could just manually attach to the Terrapagos EX as well in the active position and just sort of set that up for a future turn, not allowing Consta to start chasing down that EV straight away. We know that with a rare candy Gardevoird, we could easily see a Screamtail attack, or if there just happens to be a gusting effect, even the Clefairy could get involved.
Yeah, that Terrapagos, a great attacker in its own right. Double colorless for a unified beatdown, 30 times the number of benched Pokemon in play, but you cannot use it on your first turn, so unable to attack with it at this stage. So Dario going to be opting to attach to the EV on the bench, and now it's up to Consta to try and race ahead with that board.
I don't think it's a great hand, Mike. I see Sensitivity, I see Night Stretcher, that Counter Catcher, and Artisan. This is going to be a really weak turn. The Artisan can search out an additional basic Pokemon. It's going to be a backup Ralts, of course. But I don't think we're going to see much. I believe we can Night Stretcher for a Psychic Energy that we pitched with Ultra Ball last turn and just swing with Full Moon Rondo for as much as possible. It's really not ideal. As we said, with so many supporter cards in the prizes, just not having access to one straight away is really going to hurt Consta.
Yeah, previously Gardevoird had Refinement Curlier, so was able to set up the board and draw consistently with that trade, whereas now it's so reliant on the supporters to continually see cards or knockouts with that Pheasantipity EX. So now we'll just be going for the simplest route, which is to attack with the active Pokemon, manually attaching, something we often don't see with Gardevoird. But on this occasion, it has started a bit of an attacking race, putting plenty of damage on that Terrapagos, now 90 HP remaining. And a return attack here from Dario will be possible thanks to that ability to go nice and wide with Area 0.
We're kicking things off with an Artisan from Dario now. This might be showing off that there's access to no additional EV, but just finding more Hoot Hoot is also really reasonable. So again, Consta still sort of none the wiser about the situation that Dario's in based on those prize cards. But there's already a Terrastal EX in the active, so Jewel Seeker is live. It means Dario has access to all sorts of different attacking threats here.
Yeah, just off the Artisan, that Hoot Hoot now will be using that Jewel Seeker ability. Needs a Terra Pokemon in play. Thankfully for Dario, started the Terrapagos. Often used in this deck to be an option for a single Pokemon, a basic Pokemon that can be put in play. Otherwise, the Evolutions, the Flareon and the Sylveon, Leafeon, they are all great options to have that Terra part of the ability created there. So the Noctowl Jewel Seeker will find that Area 0, as we mentioned. I'm sure something like a Crispin will be part of this turn. But this is where the chaining of those Noctowls is the obvious thing to do. But actually, it's sometimes better to leave the Hoot Hoots in play for future turns.
Yeah, because as long as you have access to Jewel Seeker after a hand disrupt, you know that you're putting yourself into a great position. Area 0 Underdepths allows us to expand this bench from the usual 5 all the way up to 8 benched Pokemon. That's not only going to be great to allow Dario to get even more engine Pokemon established here, but it's pushing this unified beatdown into a one-hit KO range into this Clefairy. With only 190 hit points, it shouldn't be too difficult. I believe there's also some additional basics in the hand here. So Dario will be getting a nice response KO here and going 2 prizes up once again.
We mentioned earlier there's 5 different types of energy in the deck. And thankfully for the Terrapagos, it doesn't matter which ones. But how key is it to use the right energies in the scenarios to plan ahead, Joe?
The forward planning is what attackers do you still need to have access to throughout the remainder of the game. So you're trying to pull out the least impactful energy in this case, or ones that you have more within your deck even after using this Crispin. So grabbing a Grass, grabbing a Water. It also threatens a Crown Opal, interestingly enough. I don't think it's that fantastic, but it could be something you go for. Actually, we're going to swap out for a Fire Energy in this instance. Both are still going to go onto the active Terrapagos EX here. So we're really looking towards that unified beatdown as the main option right now. Dario is just going to sort of keep up with that pressure. And we'll also be putting down a Pheasantipity EX here, which sets him up quite nicely. And there's a damaged EX Pokemon. Well, are we going to hold the Pheasantipity here? He's doing some beatdown math right now.
I think does need it down to be able to knock out the Lily's Clefairy, just to get that 210 damage. Just get over the threshold, and as you mentioned, a great card to have in play for future turns.
Right.
They're knocking out your Pheasantipity, they're not knocking out your attackers, so you can often keep swinging afterwards. And on this occasion, I think Consta's going to be looking at his board and thinking, hang on a minute, last time I was here and had 2 Ralts in play, they both got knocked out, and now there is a new option to play around.
Oh, it's only a Gardevoird.
Flip the script, though, to get back into the play.
Yeah, Pheasantipity EX is the lifeline for Consta. 3 big cards from Flip the Script.
Oh, a rare candy there.
Candy gets us into the mix. There's plenty of Psychic Energy in the discard pile. That's a huge pickup from Consta. He's now reaching over for his discard to see what he has access to. He's still in this, Mike.
Just about.
Yeah. Does seem to be hanging by a thread, but at least you can maintain the prize race. See a manual attachment onto Gardevoird EX. You are going to have to still Psychic Embrace twice onto the Gardevoird, putting it in range of a Flareon EX. Typically, you love to attack with the Gardevoird when you combine it with a Monkey Dory to offset some of the damage you're putting on yourself. But in this case, it's a real downside. Will Consta opt to use the Counter Catcher here or just take the prizes in front of him?
It's a tough call here.
Yeah, we know the Terrapagos can't reach on the Gardevoird very comfortably. taking a single prize knockout is always okay when you have Monkey Dory that can sort of mop up prizes later. He's sort of shrugging, though.
I mean, one thing he has here is he knows there's some good cards in those prize cards, so if he takes a big knockout, increases the likelihood of seeing one of those research of the prize cards.
Yeah, I feel like the EV is such a big threat, though. You could always punch the Festivity EX as well. That is an option that can help you in the future, but like you said, those prize cards are so tempting. He's going to take the 2 here, Mike, and I think it's exactly what you highlighted. We need access to those supporters, and we have fortunately found a Professor's Research and an Arvin for the next turn. Dario doing some bench management as his only Terrestrial EX Pokemon has been knocked out, so he has to once again reduce his bench size down to just a 5 for promoting his EV, but we know exactly what's in his mind this turn, Mike. A response KO with Flareon EX looks so powerful.
For sure, and that counter catcher as well, such a powerful resource, as you only have 2 gust options in this Gardevoird list, the counter catchers being both of them. So if you use them early on, you then limit your ability to take out the bench Pokemon, as that Mew EX coming down now, and that promoted Eevee now has a fellow Eevee to help evolve later on. That was something that definitely changed that decision for Consta. You had to think about getting rid of the final Eevee as the draw of the flip the script does find the Ultra Ball.
Everything, yeah. Ultra Ball is all you need in this deck. That's the wonder of Jewel Seeker. Getting access to your Noctowl gives you access to your entire deck with a combination of 2 trainer cards. That's going to be plenty for Dario. Has access to Crispin plus Terra Orb, I imagine, is a good combination here. Depending on how many cards in your hand, you might want to keep going lower and get additional Jewel Seeker, but keeping more Hoot around on the board, as we've said, Mike, is always handy. Dario quickly going down to just 2 prize cards remaining, taking the only stage 2 off the board in rapid succession is looking great for him here.
Yeah, it's important to note that that knockout on the Terrapagos also allowed him to discard the previous Noctowl and was thankful that the EVX came off the prize cards as the Terra Pokemon to replace it. So a lot of things going well here for Dario. Game 1 couldn't have gone more perfect with that early quick knockout with the Wellspring Ogerpon, now having to stabilize and play the actual game. And I think it's important to remind everyone at home that this is a tough matchup for the Flareon EX and friends. And this is where we are seeing how it's always possible in those tough matchups to find a way back in. As the Crispin is played, Fire Energy required and the Water Energy, which
is in the deck. Yep,
is in there.
Bumped past it, so we have no issue. I believe there's also one in the hand, which is the only reason for Dario to pause here. But still going to opt to take those out, slam them onto the active Flareon EX. The Carnelian attack deals 280 damage. And this Pokemon can't attack during the next turn, but that's not an issue for Dario. He has plenty of ways of pivoting this Pokemon around. Right now, it's all about taking out this Gardevoird, and he's got to be licking his lips being 2 prize cards away, especially when Consta's been forced to put his Festivity EX in play. That's something that's much easier to reach.
And this knockout's so important. Typically, Dario would be using a Gravity Mountain to reduce the HP of that Gardevoird, but in this case, the damage left on it through its ability, the Psychic Embrace leaving 4 damage counters there, meant it was in rage, and that knockout from the Flareon puts Consta back on the back foot, as the singular route promotes itself to the active, and Flip the Script is going to be clutch here for Consta. Needs to find everything on this turn, and nothing in that, but we do see there are a lot of supporters in that hand, lots of options.
I think it's clear that he needed Iono here, and that's been found, which is huge. We have access to Counter Catcher, Iono, we can bounce the Area 0 Underdepths with our Artisan here. You're still going to need a lot from these next 6 cards, or 4 cards, I should say, but you can at least try and put yourself out of range of losing on the spot, and honestly, Consta's that far behind right now that it's going to be vital. Maybe even spying a Bravery Charm for one of your benched Pokemon here, and Artisan out something like Monkey Dory and then put a Bravery Charm on it. Artisaning out one of these basic attacking Pokemon could be useful as well. Trying to get something like Screamtail in the mix can be a great way to make a big comeback happen. Well, trying to counter-catch Trap and start Screamtailing away the benched Pokemon.
Frillish, if it was able to get in the active and attack, would be great, but in the prize cards, so Consta really struggling here to take the game away from Dario. Just 2 prize cards left for Dario, and with a juicy Festivity EX in play, that's definitely in range. It really does just come down to this disruptive turn. This is what Gardevoird does best. It gets behind, and it claws its way back in with disruption. Counter Catcher, Iono combined can often be enough to get you the turns back into the game.
We're going to need some heroics. I believe Consta has to play Iono here to feel confident that he's not going to lose on the spot. Ooh, wow, debating the Professor's Research. Feels so risky. You already have the Counter Catcher to try and make a trapping play. You're not going to even play the Counter Catcher here, surely. It's going to be an option for you.
Well, I guess it resets the Flareon, right? You've got so many things to think about here with that Flareon with the 3 energy already powered up, ready to go.
No rare candy combination found from the 7 cards. Consta tried to make the statistically best play to find what he needed. Sort of shrugging, though, just evolves up into a Curlier. Dario gets to hold his 6-card hand as well for next turn. You've got to feel like that's dangerous. It's going to be a pass. Dario, can you sculpt together the final game-winning pieces? We either have to move this Flareon EX in and out, as well as getting a gusting effect on a Festivity EX, or we can look to try and, again, find an Area 0 Underdepths, open up our board and get a Wellspring Ogerpon to take a 2-prize KO.
Yeah, and those 2 Hoot Hoot that we mentioned before, keeping them available, it's so key at this stage, but it can easily fizzle out as a deck. Any of these Jewel Seeker engines can just disappear, especially with a bit of disruption. On this occasion, no disruption, but, you know, are the options there in hand? That's the question.
Already Sparkling Crystal, there's already Noctowl in the hand. Jewel Seeker getting an Area 0 and a ball searching card doesn't quite get us there, but perhaps again, if we can grab one more Ultra Ball, we can get a second Jewel Seeker, and that can still get a means towards a ball search card plus a Crispin. If there's enough energy in the deck, that's going to be the game here, Mike. The first Jewel Seeker gets access to an Ultra Ball for a second Jewel Seeker, as well as the Area 0, which opens up the bench, then we just nest ball Crispin away from the game. So why did we have enough energy still in the deck?
Similar scenario to that game 1, but now as the closing play, the Area 0 coming down, there's that Ultra Ball you mentioned, and this is the key with this deck, and it's why it's so hard to play for many players. You're competing across a long day, and this is round 8 now for Dario, having to continually make these genius plays as you tutor out everything you need every turn. and can chain them into these wonderful moments. Noctowl, again, Jewel Seeker, looking for that Crispin and Bull Search card.
I see 2 energy, Mike. I see the Wellspring right at the back of the deck. That combination will be plenty. Nestball, the Wellspring, Mask, Ogerpon EX into play. And we can Crispin out the final 2 energy. In addition to the Sparkling Crystal, Consta can already see the writing on the wall. Here we go, the last 2 energy in the deck pulled out. Dario taking the fist bump, taking the game, booking his spot into Phase 2 of the World Championships.
Getting that bit closer to the top cut. Consta will get a chance to carry on competing, but on this occasion, Dario, that bit closer to his chance to become Anaheim's World Champion here in 2025. We've been here twice before, but on this occasion, it will be the most competitive event in history, and it will be that decision to go with Flareon EX